Yonah Parak Bet. When we left off, Yonah was thrown into the sea, presumably to the drowned. But now we have the famous story of Yonah and the big fish or the whale. Vayiman Hashem Dal Gadol. So Hashem prepared for Yonah a big fish. Perhaps it was a whale. We're not exactly sure. Livloa et Yonah, to swallow up Yonah. Vayi Yonah b'mei adag shlosha Yamim ushlosha lelot. Yonah was in the innards, in the stomach of the fish, of the whale, 3 days and 3 nights. And now we have Tfilat Yonah. Vayitpalel Yonah el Hashem Malokah mimei adaga. Yonah prays to Hashem his God from the stomach of the daga. Now it's very interesting just to note that it changed from dag over here, which is obviously the male form, to daga, which is a female fish. According to the Midrash, what happened was Yonah was originally a male fish, or a male whale, and he had plenty of room, and since he wasn't in a state of tzara, in a state of pain, he didn't do anything, he didn't pray, he was fine. Then Hashem therefore called the fish to spit him out, and a new fish, a female daga, who was pregnant with babies, swallowed up Yonah. So now he was much more crowded because he was sharing his limited space with all the embryos inside the fish. So from the daga, once he was in personal distress, he started to pray. Vayomer, and Yonah says, Karati mitzara li el Hashem v'yaneni. I called out in my pain to Hashem, and he has answered me. Mi beten she'ol shivati, from the stomach of Sha'ol, of the underworld, of the grave, I cried out, Shamata Koli, and you heard my prayer. Interestingly, at the very beginning of his prayer, he already says that Hashem has answered him, which perhaps could be the tzaddik who is so sure and has so much bitachon, so much trust that God is going to save him. So even when he starts the prayer, he prays as if he is already being answered. Now he describes the events that happened prior to this. So, you cast me into the depth, into the heart of the sea. The rivers surrounded me. All the breakers, all the waves were passing over me. So Yonah was drowning in the sea. He was thrown into the sea. At that moment, I said, or I thought, Nigrashti mineged einecha. I had been exiled from your eyes. Yonah says, I thought at that moment when I was drowning that I was going to drown forever and I was going to die. Ach osif lahabit el heichal kadshecha. However, I will once again see your holy heichal, your holy sanctuary. At this moment could be the transition. That Yonah was drowning, and then he was swallowed up by the fish. And once he was swallowed by the fish, he realized that, yes, ach osif la'abit el heichal kadshecha. He will once again see God's sanctuary. He will not die. Afafuni, now once again, they're going to contrast Yonah when he was drowning to Yonah when he was swallowed up by the fish. Afafuni mayim ad nefesh tahom yisavaveni. The waters encompassed me to the soul. The deep surrounded me. Suf chavas levoshi, and the reeds were tangled about my head. So Yonah clearly was drowning. He was falling into the sea. But then, lekitzmei harim yeraditi. I descended into the bases of the mountains. Haaret b'richecha ba'adi le'olam. The earth, its bars were closed against me forever. So it seemed to be that he's describing his descent into the depths of the sea, into the ridges, into the mountains of the ocean. But ta'al mishachat chayai. Yet you lifted my life from the pit. Hashem Elokai, Hashem my God. So once again we have the transition. That Yonah is describing once again how he is drowning. He is going to the depth of the sea. He's being encompassed by the reeds. He's going to the mountains. The land seems to be barred from him. But then he can get up from the pit and live once again. Bitatef alai nafshi at Hashem zacharti. When my soul was faint with me, when he was drowning, once again going back to the drowning, I remembered Hashem. And and your prayer came to my prayer came to you to your holy temple. So Yonah says, I was drowning, and then my prayer was answered, and I lived once again. I was swallowed by the fish. So this prayer, which seemed to be praying from the fish that he should go back to land, is actually a recounting of all the things that God had done to him, contrasting back and forth and back and forth. First he is drowning, then he realizes he is no longer drowning, swallowed by a fish. Then he recounts himself drowning once again, and then he recounts himself being remembered by Hashem. Then once again he recounts himself drowning. He was going faint. And then his prayer came to God, to his holy temple. And at the very last line, he summarizes it with a little bit of a retort against the non-Jews. Mishamrim havle shav, those who follow empty, false vanity, chastam ya'azovu, your chesed will be lost from them. In other words, people who don't really pray to God, who follow false vanity, they forsake their kindness, God will be lost to them. V'ani b'kol todah ez b'chalak. But me, I will, with a thanks, give sacrifices to you. Asher nadarti ashalema, I will pay back what I gave as a neder. Yeshuata la Hashem, salvation is to Hashem. So at the very end, he cannot help once again to contrast the Goyim, the non-Jews, who, as we talked about in the first chapter, Yonah doesn't feel very highly of them. That's why he ran away, because he didn't want to help the non-Jews in Nineveh. Mishamim havle shav chastam ya'azovu, those who follow empty vanities, they forsake their kindness. Hashem will be forsaken from them. V'ani b'kol dada as b'chalak. The vav here is the vav that means but, however. But I will give thanks and sacrifice of thanks. Asher nadarti hashalema. I will repay my vow. Yeshuata la Hashem, because salvation is for Hashem. And then after this prayer, it says, Vayomer Hashem ladag. Now it seems to be he's once again in a dog. I'm not sure exactly why. I thought he was in a female fish. Vayakei et Yonah ela yabasha, and this fish spit out Yonah to the dry land.